All right, here's a way to create a hinged box in Blender. This is probably one of many ways to do it, and hopefully it's not a horrible way to do it, but we're going to add in a cube. Now, one thing about this is that the cube is really small. Each one of these grid squares is 1 millimeter. So if we want this to be 75 to 100 millimeters big, what we actually have to do is scale it by hitting the S key, and then we can see that it does get bigger. We can also go over here to the properties. Where'd that one go? Object. Okay. And then you double these numbers. So this, if we make this 40 in the scale, it's 80 millimeters. So that's actually about what we'd want it to be. So we're going to make these 40 in the X and the Y, and then the Z, if we look at that, so 20 would be 40 millimeters tall. So we actually want to make this, let's make this 30 because we have to make a lid too. And then if you want to, we can move it by hitting the G key. And then if you press the Z key while you're able to move this, it only moves it up and down in the Z axis. And so then in this case, we could move this up to 30 millimeters in the Z axis, and now it's sitting right on the kind of plane of the screen. Not that that really matters that much, but it's kind of helpful. So now we'll add in another cube, and we'll scale it up to 40 by 40. And in this case, we'll make it 10, which is 20 millimeters tall, because you have to double everything. And then again, we'll press G and Z to constrain it to that axis. We'll move it, and we can see we really want to move this about 70 millimeters up in this axis. So now we should have an 80 by 80 box, or 80 by 80 by 80 box. And but the base is 60 millimeters tall, and the lid is 20 millimeters tall. All right, so now that we've got that, we need to add in. I started with the pin, the hinge pin, just to kind of get that squared away in my head. So if we add in a mesh cylinder, I'm just going to press the G key, and I'm going to move it out here because I just kind of want to see, like, it's tiny, but it's actually the diameter we want. It's 2 millimeters in diameter. If I push the Z key here, you can see here that it's 2 little grid squares by 2. So that's how big the filament actually is going to be. But it's not oriented all that well. So what we can do is we can press rotate, or R for rotate. And this is kind of it's not rotating about a good axis for us. So I want to rotate it. I pressed Y, and that's not the axis I want to rotate it about. So if I press X, that is the axis I want to rotate it about. And in the upper left corner here, you can see the angle. So it's saying, 20, 30 degrees. If I want to get it exactly to 90, either I can hold down Control, and then it snaps every 5 degrees. So I can go to -90. Or I can just pick something kind of in the axis, in the direction I want it to rotate. And then I could just say, oh, just rotate it to -90 here. So rotating a little bit in the axis you want it to rotate in, seeing which one of those is moving, and then change it to the exact number you want can be helpful. So now I want to scale this also, so I'm going to press the S key, and I only want to scale it in the Y axis, so I press Y, and we can see here that that one's scaling up here, so I want to change that to, we'll say 45, because this one's just for reference. So yeah, I can kind of pick whatever I want. And then I'm going to go to the Y view and press G again and get this kind of close to where I want it up here. Hold down Shift and middle mouse to pan, middle wheel to zoom in, Shift to pan, Shift middle mouse to pan. So again, each one of these grids is 1 millimeter, and when I was in onshape, we put the pin 3 millimeters from the box. So at this point right here is kind of where we want it. So if I move this pretty close here, again, we can see that we actually want that to be, it's really close to 43. And this one's really close to 60. And so there you can see it snapped it right to that grid point. Again, if I hit G and I start moving it around again, you'll see those two numbers over on the right-hand side are the only two that are moving. The y-axis isn't moving, so that's why I kind of ignored that number. If I just hit escape here, it'll stick it back to where it was. That's kind of like a quick kind of undo thing. So now we've got our hinge pin is pretty close. So if I go to X view and then hit G again, I want to move it in the, I hit X first, but that wasn't the one I wanted to move it in, so I pressed Y, so this lets me just kind of eyeball that. The left and right, again, this is just a reference for the filament, so you can just stick that anywhere. So now I need another few cylinders for the hinge parts. So what we're going to do for that is create another cylinder, mesh cylinder. We'll move that out here. And in this case, I want the diameter to be 5 millimeters. That's what I made it in onshape. So that, again, these are going to get doubled. So 2.5, yeah, just in all of them for now is fine. And we want to rotate it about the x-axis in this case. So I'm holding down Control, and I'm going to get it to -90. All right. So then we can go to just one of our camera views, kind of get it, again, pretty close. I do want to get this in the 0, that direction. And then if we go to the y-axis, I actually want to put this right on top of where that other one is. Again, that's, if we get these kind of close, that was 43 and 60. Okay, so if we go back to the x-axis, we can see here it's sitting right in the middle of the model. It's sitting right in the middle of the pin from the previous view, but it's not quite wide enough. So if I scale it, again, I don't want to scale it in all axes, but if I just scale it in the Y, and if I do 10 in the scale, that's a 20 millimeter section, which is what I did in Fusion. So we'll just make that scale 10. So that part is what we're going to attach to the bottom of the box here in a little bit. And but I want to copy it and add in 2 additional hinge parts on the left and right of it. So if we come back to x-axis, I'm going to do Control-C and a Control-V. And that object is sitting right on top of that. So now if I hit G for move and move it in the y-axis, you can see here that it's an exact duplicate of that one. And I want to just get this kind of close. Again, we have to have a little bit of tolerance. And that, so if we did 20.2, that'll give us a 2 millimeter or a 0.2 millimeter gap. And if I Control-C, Control-V, and move that one in the Y, get this kind of close. I have to select it again. I'm not really sure why I have to select it again, but that seems to be what you have to do. And so I want to make this -20.2, again, a 0.2 millimeter gap. Okay, so we've got our 3 hinge parts, and I'll leave these 2 kind of bigger and bulkier just because I can. We've got the space on this model, so sure. So this one's going to be attached to the bottom of the base in a second, and these 2 are going to be attached to the top. But I want to add in a little bit more geometry and get things rotated around so that they are kind of connecting well to the different parts of the lid. So to do that, I'm going to add in a couple other cubes. And again, we'll make this 2.5, 2.5, 2.5 for now, not 25. And just get this pretty close to where I want it. And so that's going to be 0 in that axis. 60, actually we know that one. And then if we rotate to this view, I don't know this one quite yet. So this one I'm just going to kind of position pretty close to here. So what we're doing here is we're adding a little bit of geometry to these pieces so that there's something to connect the hinge part to the rest of the lid or the base. I'm going to scale this up a little bit more in this x-axis, maybe to 5. And then we're going to move that in the x-axis. I'm trying to get, you can see here, it kind of flickers right at this point. And I kind of want to use that as a base for about where I need to go, which looks like it's right about 38. So if we do that, and then we want to scale this in the y-axis, yeah, to 10. All right. So now we've got a cube, and I'll show you how we're going to use that here in just a second. But first I want to copy that and paste them on the other two spots too. So Control-C, Control-V, G to move it in the y-axis. And get it kind of close, select it again, and we want to make that 20.2. And then we'll select this one again, Control-C, Control-V, G for move in the y-axis, get it pretty close, which I'm not. There we go. Select it again, and then that's negative 20.2. All right, so now what we can do is we want to we want to boolean these objects together so that they kind of turn into one object. So we're going to select one of these at first and come to modifiers, and we're going to add a boolean modifier, and we're going to pick the adjoining cube that we made. And so that's going to merge that all into one object. And then you kind of want to come down here and just hit apply right away. And then we're going to do the same thing, add modifier boolean, pick this cube, and apply. Oh, wait. Sorry, I did that wrong. I did notice it was on difference. So we actually want to union this. So I just did a Control-Z and backed it up. So that's looking better. That's how we want it. And we hit apply. So then we're going to pick this one, add modifier boolean, select that. We want it to union. Union is going to join. You can see here that it extends that geometry highlight. And then hit apply. And then same thing with this one. Boolean. Join. And then we want to pick the other box and apply. Okay, so now we've got these two. So now that those are merged together, now we can rotate these by pressing the R key. And because if you start with the cylinder and add the cube to them, then it keeps the origin of the cylinder, which is actually what you want here for rotation. So rotate, and we want to rotate about the y-axis. Yep. And we want to attach. Let's go to this axis. So rotate about y, and we want to rotate this until it's just missing that bottom left corner of the cube. Okay, kind of like that. And we got really close to that edge. So actually, we want to rotate both of these at the same time. Rotate Y and right in there. Okay, you want to make sure that it doesn't clip the top of the cube, top of the bottom box. That would be bad. And then we'll select this one, rotate Y. Actually, we could go to wireframe mode. That might be helpful too. Rotate Y and go to the Y axis. There we go. Rotate. And we're going to point this down. Hopefully that corner just barely hits there. And if we zoom up on that corner, okay, both of these are missing the adjoining cube, so that should be good. And as long as that corner is inside the model and this corner is really close to inside the model, it's close enough. Yeah, it's close enough. All right, so now we have our kind of our hinge geometry. So now we need to join those back to the main geometry of the cube. So we'll select the cube and we're going to do another boolean. And in this case, we're going to union it again with that piece and apply and add boolean union with this one and apply. Now, the reason this gets kind of weird and shaded funny is because it actually leaves the geometry there, so you can hide those. So now that doesn't shade funny anymore. And then we'll select this cube, add a modifier, boolean, and select that one. Nope, sorry. Pick that one and apply, and then we can hide. Shoot. Sorry, I had to undo Control Z to undo that one. I need to say union. And now when we apply it and we hide that one, now it's still there. All right. So the last step is we're going to do a difference and boolean out the pin with the rest of the object. So we'll select the top again, add modifier, boolean, and here we want to do a difference and we want to pick the pin and apply it. So now if we hide this, you can see that that geometry is missing from both ends of there. So now we can hide this just for a second, and we'll select the bottom, add modifier, difference, and we're going to pick the pin again and apply. So that now when we hide the pin, now that one's missing also. So now we have the top and bottom of the box. We have our hinges. We don't actually have a box. If you'll notice, I hide the top again, we have a solid box. So what we're going to do here is just go into edit mode, and we're going to mess with the geometry of this to turn it into a hollow box. It's kind of the easiest way I found to do this. So I'm going to press Tab, or you can change this object mode drop down to edit mode. And we're going to go to face mode, which is this selection right here. And I'm going to select the top of the face, and we want to do this insert faces. If you grab the circle and kind of drag in, you can see here that it's offsetting that face a little bit. And then we can do extrude region, and we can grab the plus and we can kind of push it down a ways. If we go to then wireframe mode and one of our Y or X axes, you can see here that we can continue to drag this so that it looks kind of parallel with the rest of the box that we just pushed in. Be careful doing that you don't hit the plus again. That's going to do a separate extrude, and that's not what we want. We wanted to move that face itself. So then to exit out of this, we can change it back to object mode, and we can go to solid mode too again if we want to. And there's the bottom of the box. And if we turn on the top of the box and hide the bottom, we can do a similar thing. Again, tab or change it to edit mode. We're still in face mode. So select the bottom in this case, go to insert faces. I did find this was helpful to be in wireframe mode. This way we can pull it in and just try to match that up to the bottom box that we just extruded, and then go to the y-axis and extrude the region, and then we can just drag that up to where it's kind of parallel. We have a nice, this gap here at the top is the same-ish as this gap, and then we're done. So now when we go back to object mode and solid to kind of see it, now if we hide the top, we have an empty box with our hinge section. If we hide the bottom, we have the hinge section here and the empty top. So there is a basic hinged box in Blender. It's about the easiest way I've found to do it is to use those booleans and really try to type numbers in the properties panel to really make sure that you are positioning stuff in a kind of a helpful place. Don't forget that gap in between there on either side so that the hinge will work correctly, and try to keep this to no less than about 45 degrees so that you don't run into issues with too steep of overhangs. So now that you've got this, what we'll do is we'll say File, Export, STL, and I've got a Blender test that I'm exporting to. And this is what I'll do in the slicer earlier test. And so if we then take that Blender test into the slicer, it looks like one object. I can then go to split to objects, and now we've got the bottom of the box and the top of the box, and then we'll flip this one over so that we're printing that one upside down. And now we have our hinged box all made in Blender. Try to see if you can do something to spice it up a little bit more than what I've done here, but that would meet the requirements for a hinge. So have fun and good luck.